Hallo, ik ben Tom van Oosterwijk. Als consultant bij Spikes help ik klanten in het bouwen van een roadmap voor de implementatie van een moderne werkplek. Hierbij is security ook zeer belangrijk. We merken een enorme evolutie in het IT-security-landschap. Bedrijven evolueren door de digitale transformatie naar een digitale state, waar medewerkers, klanten en partners toegang toe moeten krijgen om een vlottere samenwerking te stimuleren. Organisaties hebben ook minder en minder controle over de devices die toegang hebben tot hun netwerk. Ook de bescherming van het fysieke datacenter door het afschermen van de perimeter is minder en minder belangrijk. Het is minder efficiënt en het is ook te duur. Daarom dringt zich ook een nieuwe manier van beveiliging op. De huidige security-markt is zeer gefragmenteerd. Er zijn meer dan 150 verschillende security-categorieën, geleverd door meer dan 500 leveranciers. Het in stand houden van de kennis en de implementatie daarvan is zeer duur en bijna onmogelijk. De dag van vandaag zijn er een aantal security-uitdagingen bij de bedrijven. Cyberaanvallen starten meestal bij het stelen van de digitale identiteit van de eindgebruikers. Daarom is ook de bescherming van deze identiteit een eerste belangrijke stap. De meeste cyberaanvallen hebben het gemunt op de data en informatie die opgeslagen is op ons netwerk. Daarom is ook de beveiliging van de IT-systemen een belangrijke tweede stap. Cyberaanvallen zijn geautomatiseerd en polymorf. Ze evolueren constant tijdens de verspreiding. Daarom is het ook van belang dat de beveiliging geautomatiseerd is, anders lopen we op de kritieke momenten steeds achter de feiten aan. Om betaalbaar te blijven moet je security-oplossing geïntegreerd zijn. Het moet ook in staat zijn om verschillende typen attacks te kunnen detecteren en afslaan. In de volgende video legt Microsoft uit hoe zij dit met hun security-producten kunnen oplossen.
Hello, my name is Matt Sosman, and I'm a security architect at Microsoft, and I'd like to talk to you about the Microsoft security story. Let's get started. What do we mean when we talk about security for your digital transformation? Well, we're all operating in this world now of an intelligent cloud and an intelligent edge. This is really how we at Microsoft see the world evolving into a set of intelligent cloud services which have a great deal of computing power and data storage capability behind them, and a set of edge devices that span everything from IoT devices to PCs to mobile phones and so on. And there's a lot of intelligence on those as well, but less storage capacity and computing power. These two tiers of the intelligent world work together as a unified system. This is the world that many of our customers are moving to with their digital transformation. And when it comes to defending against cyber attacks in the intelligent cloud and intelligent edge era, we really have to consider what is our digital estate. How do we think about what our assets are and what we have to defend against? This is a little bit different now than it was 5 or 10 years ago. IT organizations now find themselves responsible for protecting a set of technology that they may not own. That can be things like user-owned mobile devices that are used to access corporate data. It also includes systems and devices that your partners and customers use to access your information. And any of these points can be a point of vulnerability for your overall estate. That changes the game when it comes to security. You can no longer draw perimeters around your organization. This is the challenge that we all struggle with in IT security, and it's a challenge that we at Microsoft think that we can uniquely help with. One of the big challenges in security is that the market is very fragmented and very confusing. There are dozens and dozens of categories of solutions, and within each of those categories, there are dozens or maybe even hundreds of solutions to choose from. If you went to a major security conference right now, you would find over 150 different types of security controls are represented. Everything from antivirus for endpoints to anti-drone technologies from 500 or more vendors. And that would be at just one conference. Many of our customers are struggling just to figure out how many of those solutions do we need in place. Adding to the confusion, the threat landscape is continually evolving. We have a really wide view of this evolution because Microsoft's business spans across such a wide array of audiences and technologies. We publish a report every 6 months to provide an update on what we've seen, called the Security Intelligence Report. As we look back across the last couple of years, we see a few macro-level trends. The first trend is around identity-based attacks are up 300% this year. This is because identity is the key to securing any one of those elements of the digital state diagram that we looked at earlier. You need to understand that the identity of the person who is trying to access the information or the line of business application or the device. And in some ways, this is the last defense of control for many IT organizations. It's becoming the essential control plane for security. And attackers understand that. And so they're focused heavily on stealing and cracking passwords. Once they have a valid username and password, they can work their way towards their ultimate target, and that's your information. Information is, after all, the most attractive target. We're no longer protecting against hackers or teenagers in their parents' basement who launch attacks for fun or notoriety. The attackers you're protecting against are trying to steal something from you for monetary gain, and information is most likely that something. If you're in the business of making money, you have something that people want. And making matters worse, one implication of the new digital state is that information is going to move into and out of the systems that IT controls. It's going to move out of those systems and onto mobile devices. It's going to get emailed to people outside the organization. It's going to go to partners and customers. And so the size of this target is growing exponentially. The third trend, broadly stated, that attackers are now heavily using automation tools and other sophisticated methods to help their attacks spread incredibly quickly. That makes it very difficult for a human or even a team of people to keep up. We're seeing that 96% of the malware that we detect is automated polymorphic. That means it changes its look and shape every time it infects a new system. This is a means of escaping traditional types of detection, and it's just one example of how attackers are using automation to move quickly. Lastly, many security operations center analysts are finding themselves completely swamped because they're using more than 60 security solutions on average, and many of these solutions aren't integrated with each other. This is also where many of our customers tell us that they're experiencing talent shortages today. They're finding it difficult to hire good quality security operations center analysts to conduct investigations and decide how to best remediate. To help cut through all the confusion and clutter, let's distill this problem into a few key strategies for success. The number one we would recommend for every organization is to adopt identity-based protection. This is your first line and last line of defense. This is absolutely critical for a starting point for a strong defense against today's attacks. The second strategy is that you should protect information wherever it goes. As documents and emails move around inside and outside your organization, the protection just has to go along with those documents. The third strategy is to detect attacks faster and automate your response. As attackers adopt automation, you also need to have automation in your corner. Protection or prevention is still every bit as important as ever. But even the best protection can be beaten, and so you need to be able to quickly detect attacks and then automate the response. And the last strategy here is that you should use all the tools that integrate the investigation experience for your IT team and provide guidance for them. Their time is an increasingly precious resource, and you need to make the most of it. That is why it's most important to use tools that integrate the investigation experience across all the services that an attack has touched, from the endpoint, the desktop, or the mobile device, to the identity that was used for the attack, to the other server systems that may have been impacted, and so on. Being able to look across all of those surfaces and understand that attack across all those different types of services is really important to efficiently dealing with an issue. Having guidance is also very important because the techniques for defending changes daily, and it's very difficult for IT personnel to keep up with how they should defend against the latest types of attacks. These are the 4 strategies that we think are useful to help you focus your energies and security investments. They're also the way that we focus our research and development investments at Microsoft. At Microsoft, as we operate all of our cloud services for our customers, we really think about our responsibility as being even broader than just that. It includes privacy, control, making sure that you have control over your data and that you know what's happening with it. Transparency, that you can achieve the compliance objectives that you need to, and that you have the reliability that you can count on for cloud services. But I want to focus today just not on security, and in particular, how you can approach this challenge for your evolving digital estate. At Microsoft, we spend $1 billion every year on research and development. And the way we think about it is that how we can do something at Microsoft that's unique that the other parts of the ecosystem are not able to provide. What is the additional security capability that we can layer on top of what our partners have already done? That shows up in 3 areas across intelligence, platform, and partners. The centerpiece of our investment in intelligence is the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. This is how we describe the way that we synthesize a vast amount of data from a huge variety of sources. 400 billion emails get analyzed by our Outlook.com and Office 365 email services every month. 1.2 billion devices get scanned every month by Windows Defender. That gives us a great deal of signal into what's happening on endpoints and where are their attacks and what do they look like. We operate 200 plus global cloud consumer and commercial services, everything from Outlook.com to Xbox Live to Office 365 to Azure and so on. And with all of those services, we have a tremendous amount of surface area that we have to defend. Enterprise security from Microsoft is employed by 90% of the Fortune 500. And so we see more attacks than most other companies on any given day. We get a lot of information from defending against those attacks. 750 million plus Azure user accounts give us tremendous insight into how people authenticate into Azure. And that combined with 450 billion monthly authentications that we do with Azure Active Directory and Microsoft accounts, that really gives us some tremendous insight into what is normal behavior when it comes to sign-ins and authentications, and what is abnormal behavior, and how often is it that someone has the right password, but they're not the right person they say they are. We learn a lot about defending that really important control point, the identity, by looking across that set of data. Bing scans 18 billion web pages every month, giving us really great insight into what people are doing with web scripting technologies when it comes to attacks and email phishing campaigns. And we have a great way to look at that and understand how we should help customers defend based on that information. On top of all of that, we layer shared threat data that we get from our partners, from the researchers here at Microsoft, who are part of our 3,500 plus people that are full-time on security, and law enforcement agencies that we partner with worldwide through our digital crimes unit, as well as botnet data that we collect through the digital crimes unit. All of that intelligence makes up the intelligence security graph. And why is it a graph? It's a graph because what's really important is connecting those pieces of intelligence so that these signals are not just individual points of information. The graph brings them together as something that we could draw patterns across. We can learn from one point of data to influence how we interpret another point of data. And so the intelligence security graph is something that we are very, very heavily invested in at Microsoft. It's something that we feel is unique to us in this industry. And it's not just about the machine learning and the artificial intelligence. Those are important, of course, and they're also central to our effort. But it's also about the people, the experts at Microsoft who interpret the data and do the investigative work on incidents that only humans can do. Those security experts are in what we call the Cyber Defense Operations Center. They defend our services, Azure and Office 365 and so on behalf of our customers. They also defend Microsoft's own IT infrastructure on behalf of Microsoft. And they're combined in the same building with our digital crimes unit, so that all of the human brain power can work together on tough security problems. We believe that we have best-in-class operations for security, and we can continue to advance the state of the art by just performing those operations daily. We share that intelligence with all of our customers, both in the form of information about how we do it and how they might structure their own operations, but also in the form of continually improving the Microsoft Intelligence Security Graph. So that's the intelligent piece of our investments, and that informs everything we do in these other 2 areas. Now let's dig into platforms. Platforms has 2 sides of the coin. The first side of platform is the secure foundation of our cloud services. This is about how we operate our own cloud services, Azure, Office 365, and so forth. We have some of the world's best physical security with fences and barbed wire and so on to provide secured building environments within those buildings, secure server environments. To enter a server environment, for example, a person would have to pass through multiple physical layers and provide multiple forms of identification. They would also be scanned for metal in their pockets to make sure that they're not bringing in devices to steal information, like a USB drive. So there's a great deal of physical security in place that we do on behalf of all of our customers and our cloud services, and that make it possible for our customers to really leverage the investment that we've made in that respect. Operational security I touched on a minute ago when we talked about the human piece of the intelligent security graph. One of the ways this comes to life is in our continual testing of our services, making sure that we're finding vulnerabilities faster than the bad guys can. We have a big focus on red team, blue team exercises. And if you're not familiar with those, the idea is that we have a dedicated security professionals whose job is it to be the good side but act like the bad side, or excuse me, the bad guys. They're constantly trying to find ways to penetrate our services, find ways that hackers might attack us, and so that we can shore up against our defenses. Another example of our operational excellence is around restricted access. When Microsoft employees need elevated access so that they can do maintenance on a service or so they can investigate a customer support issue, they only have access to exactly the resources they need access to and for only exactly the amount of time that they need it. So just in time and just enough access to do their work, and then they get out. They don't have any standing elevated access that allows them to actually view customer data. And this is something, again, where we continue to make an investment at Microsoft that gets heavily leveraged because all of our customers will benefit. And lastly, customer controls are a huge important part of this. This is something that we get asked about a lot when we talk to customers about our cloud services. What are the things that I have at my control so I can decide how I want to manage my data and access it? Access controls, of course, are the very foundation. Multi-factor authentication for administrators at customer sites who are in charge of operating Azure for that customer or operating Office 365. Having multi-factor authentication, of course, is a basic thing that we think is just fundamental. The encryption and key management capabilities that are in place allow customers to decide how and where they want to encrypt data at rest and at transit. And it allows them to be in possession of those encryption keys so they know there's no way that anybody at Microsoft, even if there was a rogue bad actor inside of our organization somehow, that they would not be able to access that customer data because it's encrypted with a key that only the customer holds. And lastly, network and distributed denial of service protection is in place for all of these services. We do basic protection to ensure our services work reliably, and Azure customers can take advantage of additional protection at the network layer to suit their needs. The other side of the platform coin is the built-in security that we make part of our products. This is about building in security tools and technologies into not only Azure and Office 365, but Windows and Enterprise Mobility and Security and the Office clients that we offer our customers. Our investments here are guided by the four strategies for success I mentioned earlier. The first one, of course, is identity and access management. In identity and access management, the basic question is how much control do you really have over the access to your sensitive data in your line of business applications, or maybe just your email? Not only who is accessing what, but also can those access control policies actually change depending on conditions? So if I'm in the office at one point and I go home, is the way I authenticate and log in going to be different? So our approach in identity and access management is really threefold. Number one, protection at the front door. Make sure that we have the best authentication that we can. Make sure that we do more than just use passwords and that we work towards a future of no more passwords. Number two, improve the user experience while maintaining that security. Get to that no passwords world, but also make things better for the user so it's not just a tax on the user when we improve security. And then number three, safeguard those credentials when they're in use as part of the OS session or the application session. One of the really important concepts that we talk about here is the one I touched on earlier, the idea of adaptive security or conditional access based on different risk factors. The way that we build this up for our customers and our technologies is with this approach. There is a number of if statements that we can evaluate. Is this a privileged user? Do they have administrator access? Are they on a managed or unmanaged device? Are they using a set of credentials that we actually found out in the public up for sale so that we know that they're compromised and have been stolen? And so on, there's a number of if statements that we can then evaluate against. And every day we collect over 10 terabytes of information as we operate our services. As we operate Azure Active Directory and in Microsoft accounts, we get a lot of information about what is normal and what is not normal, what is risky, what is not risky. And we could apply that and understand risk level based on machine learning and advanced analysis of that data. We look at those if conditions and say, okay, these all stack up to a high, medium, or low risk. We allow then the IT organization to make a decision about what is the then policy that gets applied. So if I have a certain number of conditions on the left-hand side, and I end up with a risk level of high or medium on the right side, which of those results do I want to have happen? Do I want to allow access? Do I maybe want to require multi-factor authentication? Deny access altogether? Maybe force a password reset? Or maybe limit the access and just allow somebody to maybe see but not edit a document, for example. And so this is how we can conditionally give access and really change this equation every single time somebody requests access to an application or to a document or some other piece of sensitive information, every time they log in. This is how we can change the game really at this fundamental layer. Remember, we talked about this as the #1 strategy for success here. And if my credentials are stolen, the attacker has keys to the kingdom, especially if I have administrator access to the environment. This is the fundamental control plane for security, and so this is a really important concept. I'd now like to show you a short demonstration video that takes this just a bit further into some of the technologies that we have at Microsoft to help with identity and conditional access. Enjoy.
Cybersecurity remains a top challenge for today's organizations. While it's essential to give users mobile access to company data, these increasingly complex interactions generate new blind spots for IT. Cybersecurity attacks are getting more sophisticated, and they can have a significant impact on business. Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security provides a holistic and innovative approach to security. It addresses sophisticated attacks with comprehensive controls, deep visibility, unique intelligence, and advanced detection and response. Identity-driven security starts with identity protection capabilities to safeguard access to resources at the front door. Before apps and data can be accessed, users, devices, and locations must be trusted. Azure Active Directory can make that possible by placing one secure identity at the center of your business. Azure AD leverages billions of signals to provide advanced identity protection for all your users and administrators. It protects you at the front door with location, device, and risk-based conditional access policies, multi-factor authentication, and security audit reports and alerts. Often, attackers target privileged accounts to access critical company data, or they seek idle admin accounts that create a known vulnerability. Azure Active Directory Privileged Identity Management helps you manage and protect these accounts by discovering, restricting, and monitoring privileged identities and their access to resources. It also helps you enforce administrative access for an exact period of time and manage built-in Azure AD organizational roles. Part of Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security, these innovative security technologies help protect your users, devices, apps, and data, both on-premises and in the cloud.
And so passwords no longer matter how complex or frequently changed they are, and they're not up to the task. The reality is that passwords are not secure, and they never can be. The solution to this problem is strong authentication solution via multiple factors, but most of the today's solutions, even ones considered the state of the art like smart cards, are too difficult to use. The smart card, for instance, requires complex infrastructure, card readers, etc. And for that reason, they just aren't a viable solution for today's mobile workforce and devices. In our own operating system, with Windows Hello, we address these challenges by taking the best parts of the smart card and remove all the friction and hardware requirements. You get a two-factor solution that can use a PIN or biometrics option, like your fingerprint or facial recognition for the first factor, and then your PC becomes the second part of that factor. With biometrics, you get a secure and more convenient experience that is available in over 100 types of Windows devices. A PIN, of course, can be used everywhere. For organizations under strict regulation like FIPS 140-2, you can use a Windows Hello companion device to remotely sign into your PC and services. More on that in a few moments. Because of this, Windows Hello can work on any device that supports Windows 10, there are no challenging hardware requirements to accommodate. It really does work everywhere. So now let's talk about the second piece of our platform story, and that's around information. Remember, this is about protecting information wherever it goes. And so the question for our customers is, do you have a strategy for protecting and managing sensitive information? Do you know where your sensitive data resides? This seems like a very simple and basic question, but trust me, it is a complex issue for most organizations of any size. Trying to understand where is all of our sensitive information and intellectual property can be a huge project in of itself. The second question to ask is, do you have control of your data as it travels both inside and outside your organization? When it gets shared with customers or your business partners via email or SharePoint sites or OneDrive or Teams or other online services, or when it goes out on somebody's mobile device. And lastly, are you using multiple solutions to classify, label, and protect sensitive data? We find that many of our customers are, and that is a just disjointed set of solutions that don't work together for a common solution to the problem. So, our approach at Microsoft is to detect and classify sensitive information. This is really about understanding, is that sensitive information and what of it is sensitive? What actually makes it sensitive? Is it all sensitive? Or is there just a portion of it that's sensitive? This is really applying those ideas of something that's confidential, highly classified, and confidential, but not so classified public information. That can be a subject of intense debate inside any large organization, involving the legal team and risk management team and the IT organization and even the business. The second piece is applying intelligent protection based on that policy. Knowing that information is sensitive, what type of information protection am I going to apply to it? What is the policy that governs that? And then lastly, monitoring and remediating. So understanding, where is information going? Who has access to it? How much control do we really have over it? And then remediating and understanding how we can make it better in the next cycle. And we want to make sure that we do this across a pretty broad surface area, from devices to applications to cloud services and to on-premises systems. Across all of those surfaces, we really need to make sure that we're understanding how we apply that protection policy. So now I'd like to show a short video that provides a demonstration of the Microsoft technology around information protection. Enjoy.
Organizations that have moved to the cloud or mobile environments often wonder how to protect data. Rather than restricting users, you can actually gain visibility and control and keep your corporate data safe with Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security. With Microsoft Cloud App Security, you can discover all the cloud apps in your environment, identify users and usage, and get a risk score for each app. You can then decide if you'd like your users to access these apps. Cloud App Security not only provides visibility, but also data control and threat protection. You can shape your cloud environment by setting policies and enforce them immediately on cloud apps, whether from Microsoft or third parties. Whenever there's an anomaly, you'll get an alert. What about preventing data loss from mobile apps? With Microsoft Intune, you can give employees access to corporate apps, data, and resources from virtually anywhere on almost any device. With an unparalleled ability to protect Office and other mobile apps, it's easier than ever to prevent data loss on iOS, Android, and Windows devices without affecting end-user experiences or even requiring device enrollment. Azure Information Protection provides additional security through persistent data protection, ensuring your data is always protected, regardless of where it's stored or with whom it's shared. You can classify, label, and protect files, share them securely, track their usage, and even revoke access if necessary. Microsoft gives you a comprehensive solution to safeguard your corporate data with deeper visibility, stronger controls, and better enforcement.
Now let's talk about threat protection. This is in some ways the classical idea that many people have when they think about cybersecurity issues. The interesting thing about threat protection is that it really means it's a means to an end. You want to make sure that you're protected against threats because they are the way that hackers and other attackers are trying to get access to your information. So the question in this area is, how do you protect your organization from those advanced threats? The state of the art today is that all of the threats are fairly advanced. So how quickly can you detect suspicious activities on your network or your devices? Is the first question here that you have to ask yourself. This is about understanding that at some point you will be breached. And it's not always about deflecting attackers or preventing attacks. Those are important things too, but no single solution can ever be 100% effective. So it's also about understanding that at some point your defenses will be breached, and you need to be able to detect suspicious activities quickly so you can quickly remediate that issue. The second question is, how do you know if those credentials have been compromised? We ask this because it's one of the main vectors of attacks these days. In fact, the number one attack vector is email phishing. What attackers are looking for is a set of known good user credentials that they can then use to access other systems in your environment on the network and traverse that network in some way to get to something sensitive and more valuable, whether that's an Active Directory domain controller or a marketing roadmap for your product or the secret formula to your product. It can be anything. And so third, how quickly can you remediate advanced threats is a really important discussion to have. Remember, I said earlier that 96% of malware is now automated polymorphic, meaning that attackers are tremendously automated. And so how quickly can you catch up with that advanced threat? How quickly can you move as that threat moves? And lastly, how do you protect your users from email threats? Because this is probably the primary vector for attack these days, as I just mentioned, either an attachment to an email or a malicious link. Many of the biggest attacks that we see these days just start from an email message. And so our approach to threat protection is to reduce the attack surface first. We want to make sure that we are preventing attacks wherever possible. And that means making sure the attack surface, as we call it, is as small as possible. We want to reduce the number of places where an attacker might find some kind of purchase into the system or the network or that endpoint device. This means filtering out malicious code or links before they're ever reached a user via email or other document sharing services, and also deep protection on endpoints that include advanced hardware-based security to isolate critical attacks or critical assets from the attack. The second part is we want to detect attacks faster and block them. It can't all be about prevention. That's important, but it also has to be about understanding that you will be breached at some point, and how quickly can you know that you've been breached so that you can then respond automatically. Unique to Microsoft is our ability to detect memory and kernel-based attacks on endpoints. That's point number 3 here, responding automatically to breaches where appropriate. There's a lot of sensitivity in IT security organizations around the idea of automatic remediation, but we do think it's very important to explore that area because we know that so many attackers are automated now. Our approach here across protection, detection, and response is to build capabilities, not bolt them on. Have it baked into the product. Whether we're talking about a cloud service like Office 365 or Azure, or the endpoint operating system, Windows, we are focusing on providing built-in protection, detection, and response. This is critical to quickly detecting attacks across the digital estate. Now, let me show you a short demonstration through a video of the Microsoft technology.
140 plus days. That's the average time attackers reside within your network until they're found. These breaches cost your business, impacting brand value, data security, and competitive edge, not to mention legal and remediation expenses. Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security helps you detect attacks before they cause damage, both on-premises and in the cloud, with holistic and innovative security technologies. Our solution helps you take immediate action and streamline recovery. On-premises, Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics, or ATA, pinpoints breaches and identifies attackers using innovative behavioral analytics and anomaly detection technologies. ATA employs machine learning and user and entity behavioral analytics to find advanced persistent threats. It also detects suspicious activities and known malicious attacks used by cybercriminals. For cloud apps, Cloud App Security identifies high-risk usage and security incidents, detects abnormal user behavior, and prevents threats. On an identity level in the cloud, Azure Active Directory Premium offers advanced security reports, audits, and alerts. Identity protection calculates the risk level for every user and sign-in attempt, so risk-based conditional access rules can be applied to protect against suspicious logins. All of our security solutions' anomaly detection and risk scoring are enhanced with Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. Microsoft's unmatched threat intelligence, driven by trillions of signals from billions of sources and security research data. With advanced machine learning techniques and massive amounts of data sets in the cloud, Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security constantly evolves to arm you with innovative defenses that help you protect, detect, and respond to cybersecurity attacks.
The last category I want to cover in this platform area is security management. This is a tremendously important topic for our customers. So as we talk about this conversation, it's really about how do you know the security state of your full digital estate in real time? Remember that broad set of technologies and endpoints and sensors I talked about at the beginning of the presentation that our customers have to defend, even if they don't own or manage some of them? How do they know the security state of all of them is a pretty important topic, because it's how you detect when something has gone wrong. The second one is how easily can you configure and manage the security posture across that digital estate? How many different tools do you have access to get that configuration? How quickly can you get it done? You need to treat your Security Operations Center personnel's time as highly valuable because they are so difficult to hire and stretched so thin. And lastly, how do you proactively improve your security practices? Over time, how are you getting better? This is something that we think is really important for us, and we think it's something that we can help our customers with tremendously. So our approach here is really to provide visibility. That's the ability to see the security state across the entire digital estate. Control, that's the ability to make those policy configurations easily, quickly, and coherently, most importantly across all of the layers of that estate. And then we can provide guidance, and that helps the Security Operations Center person know what to do next. The alert has arrived, I'm not sure what it means, what do I do next, is a common question that responders have when it comes to defending the digital estate. We have to do this again across a pretty broad surface area, from devices to applications and the data that they touch and the infrastructure itself. Now that was a lot of information. The way we like to bring this back together is to have our customers consider a different approach. Is there a way that they can reevaluate their IT security portfolio to reduce the number of solution vendors that they have to source products from? Is there a way that they can use built-in protection so that they have less to deploy and fewer agents to manage? Is there a way that they can speed up response by using tools that integrate detection and exploration across the full surface area? That is important across devices, identity, and information. And is there a way that they can benefit from the unparalleled visibility into the threat landscape that a vendor like Microsoft has? And of course, our answer here at Microsoft is yes, there is a way to do that. And we think that we can help with all four of these points. We can help you reduce the number of solution vendors by providing you with Microsoft 365, a package that provides all of these capabilities that we've just talked about. We think that we can help use built-in protection by building things into Windows and into Azure and into Office 365 so you don't have to deploy quite so many different point solutions and manage all of those agents and solutions. We think that we could help you speed up response by giving you tools that integrate across all of the different pieces of your digital estate, and that you can benefit of our visibility into the threat landscape that comes as part of the intelligence security graph that powers all of these solutions I just talked about. They'll all dip into the intelligence security graph and get smarter and better at protecting as a result of it. So to bring it all together, here's where Microsoft has invested. Across these 4 areas of identity, access management, information protection, threat protection, and security management. We've put a tremendous amount of investment into these, and the way it shows up is across a pretty broad array of products and features. Our identity and access management tools enable you to take an identity-based approach to security and establish truly conditional access policies. Our information protection solutions help you apply protection that travels with the data as it moves around both inside and outside your organization. Our threat protection capabilities are built into the platform, so you can strengthen both pre-breach protection with deep capabilities across email, collaboration services, and endpoints, including hardware-based protection, and post-breach detection that includes memory and kernel-based protection in response with automation. And lastly, our security management tools give you the visibility and control, and more importantly, the guidance to manage policy in a centralized place. Let's dig into the third area, and that's partners. And this is about not only how we partner with our peers in the industry, other providers of security tools, but also how we work with the industry alliances and how we work with government and law enforcement agencies around the world. This is somewhat a unique way that Microsoft thinks about partnership. It's a little bit different from how other security vendors might also be talking about partnership. When we think about partnerships with our peers in the security industry, I want to focus on one that's a little bit unique and different from what other security vendors are doing. Again, we bake security deeper into the hardware with our partners like Intel, and of course into our first-party Microsoft Surface devices. When you think about this, the important thing to remember is that the software layer where all of these things interact with our PCs is a pretty vulnerable place. There's a lot of innovation that happens, and there's a lot of easily serviceable components. But that means that it has a broader surface area of attack. And if the defenses here fail, the entire operating system could be compromised. So we can't rely on just the software layer as the only place where we provide protection. We need to also use the firmware layer and some of the hardware-based isolation technologies that we've built into Windows 10 to greatly reduce the surface area, and then monitor and validate integrity a lot more easily. That makes it more resistant to attack, even if the operating system defenses have failed. Deepest down in the silicon layer, right into every chip, working with Intel and other hardware partners, we can reduce the attack surface even more. And then use hardware implementation to make tampering extremely difficult. And then, of course, keep the entire endpoint resistant to attack even when the operating system defenses have failed. There are a number of other examples of ways that we partner with our peers in the industry. And this is because we understand that most of our customers are using dozens and dozens of security solutions today. The solutions we provide can add value and work with those existing solutions. You see here a few examples of the partnerships that we have across these 4 spaces. Now, let's talk about one example of the way that we work with the industry alliances as part of our partnership strategy. The FIDO Alliance, or Fast Identity Online, is one of the most important ones that we work with today. Because as I mentioned earlier, identity is probably one of the most important control points for security today. And so what the Fast Identity Online Alliance does is all of these board members work together to ensure that we can provide security on premises and in web properties for our secure mobile user credentials and secure authentication. And we really want to make sure that everybody who uses services day to day on the web or on premises get the same great experience I have as a Microsoft employee when I sign into my Surface with just my face and I don't have to use a password. But I still have secure authentication to every single line of business application and service that I need throughout my workday. And that's single sign-on. This is not just about facial recognition or single sign-on, but that's an example of the type of great experience we can provide for all of the people who use these services and these websites while maintaining a secure authentication. We can all work toward a future of no more passwords. In the space of our partnership with governments and law enforcement agencies, I want to highlight the work that our digital crimes unit does. They are leading our fight against cybercrime here at Microsoft, protecting people and organizations through the global disruptions like takedowns of botnets and enforcement actions where they can help local law enforcement agencies capture and bring cyber criminals to justice. And so this takes the form of investigations, machine learning, application, forensics, creative legal strategies, and all sorts of tactics that our cyber crimes unit is able to employ here.